Welcome back, everybody. Back again with a new episode of Rpgibberish, and this is not going to be the season 2, but this is going to be the season 2 kickoff episode in which we are kind of rounding out 2011, talking about some of the upcoming games for 2012, some of the awesome news announcements that have happened over the last 2 or 3 months or so after we wrapped up season 1. Besides that, we're going to be talking about our favorite RPGs of 2011. So, not anything focused on in particular, no developer, but it's definitely going to be an awesome episode. But before we get ahead of ourselves, Greg, how have you been doing these last few months?
How you going, everyone? It's been very interesting living out of home for the first time, but that doesn't deter me from playing a lot of RPGs. I've bought a lot of new RPGs, and I've been having a good time, and I will be talking about all those games I've been playing later on the episode. But I kind of like where I'm living now. One of the cool things is we've got one of the best gaming stores, not just in my state, but in the entire country. And I always enjoy going there. Not so much these days because I can't afford to buy the stock that's there. But what's really cool is from all the game stores that I've been to in Australia, I've never seen a store that stocks up on a lot of rare RPGs, especially on the DS and the PSP. And, hopefully when I get things more settled and if I find a job, I can get back into collecting. Right now, basically, I'm just playing through my backlog and enjoying everything.
Alright, yeah, that's definitely what I've been doing. Even though there have been a lot of great releases, I've been catching up on a lot of backlog, and I think that will come into play later on for 2012, where we'll talking about some goals. And I definitely have a very, very interesting one, but we'll talk about that later on. So, let's see, I think it would be a good idea to first off, just start off with, what are the top 3 RPGs that, we've been playing recently. So, which ones did you play the last couple of months?
Well, I might have to apologize for top 3 because I've played a lot of games, and I'm going to quickly touch upon what I've played, what I haven't played. But now, first up, these past 2 days, I've been playing a lot of my girlfriend's library, and just quickly, I got to play Children of Mana, which is considered the black sheep of the Secret of Mana series, and I got to say, it's not that bad. It's got its quirks, and a lot of people hate it because it doesn't measure up to Secret of Mana, but for what it delivers, it's not bad. I look forward to playing more of it. I've also played one of the first PS2 RPGs, and I know I'm going to butcher the name, but I think it's pronounced Ephemeral Fantasia. It was created by Konami, and this was also a game that got dogged by reviewers on all the big games magazines. So I came in there with a very low opinion, but I got to say, that's actually a good thing because the game isn't that bad. For its time, it sported some nice visuals for being one of the first second generation PS2 titles. The characters were very likable, very quirky, very funny. One thing I didn't like about the game, and this should not be a surprise to you all, is there is a rhythm section, and it does determine what people say about you in the event. And of course, I failed miserably because the controls were awful, and everyone knows my hatred of rhythm games. So that could be an issue later on as I play it. But I like what I've played so far. But very quickly, just to finish off these past 2 days, what I've been playing. Today, I played 2 hours of Shadow Hearts, and let me tell you now, that is a fantastic RPG. Out of all the games I've played these last 2 days, I definitely reckon Shadow Hearts is the best. And it was made the same year as Ephemeral Fantasia, around 2000, 2001. I think it's got a quality that just would have just amazed back then. It amazes me back now. One thing that sets apart from other RPGs, it's very gory and got a big horror theme around it. And it's very different from what I've been playing lately. And there's a lot to like about it, but I don't want to talk about it too much, in case we do a Shadow Hearts episode, which I know we will do later on in the future. But that's what I've been kind of sampling. But to talk about seriously what I have been playing, there's one game that I have been focusing on, and that is Legend of Heroes Tear of Vermilion, which was a first-year PSP RPG. Of course, this is based on the Legend of Heroes series from Neon Falcom, and it's a remake of an old PC 98 game that was released around early 90s. What's really cool is it's no secret I'm a big Falcom fan, so when I finally got my hands on it, I bought it without question. However, being a first generation title, it does have a lot of issues, and reviewers did crucify the game for it. But I'm going to talk about my feelings on it, and first up, it's got a good story with a good cast of characters, and that's something that Falcom usually excels in with all their games. So didn't have to worry about that. However, one thing I have to warn anyone that wants to play the game, the battle system is very simplistic, not only in controls, but in presentation, so it might turn a lot of people off. But one of the things that happened with the game was it had a very rushed translation, and there is a lot of spelling and grammar errors. I mean, just the biggest example is whenever you learn a spell in the victory screen, it comes up the character was airstrike learnt. So there's a big error putting was in there. It makes it sound like it was the skill learnt or not, but it was a grammar error, and it's sad to see that happen, but I'm guessing that Bandai wanted to rush it, because the thing was Falcom didn't make the game. They just licensed the characters and the game story out to Bandai, and Bandai really rushed it. And it didn't help matters that Bandai USA also misprinted the numbers, because Legend of Heroes Tear of Vermilion is actually Legend of Heroes 4, whereas in the US English release it's just called Legend of Heroes. And that really stuffed up things later on. When Legend of Heroes 2 came out, it was actually Legend of Heroes 3 in Japanese. When Legend of Heroes 3 came out, it was Legend of Heroes 5 in Japanese. So you can all thank Bandai for causing quite the confusion.
That's even worse than the Final Fantasy numbering. I've read about it before, but I didn't know it was that convoluted.
It was. It's really convoluted, and I can tell you this now. I like the story and the characters that much that I'm willing to go through the journey, but it is really basic, and I can tell you this now. If it will come later in the game where I'll need to grind, and I've got that feeling it will, I'll need a trusty supplier podcast to help me see that through. So yeah, all in all, I definitely will beat it, because I'm really interested in beating all the Legend of Heroes games and any game from Falcom. So that is really the main game that I've been playing lately.
All right, those are definitely some interesting picks. Definitely heard a lot of great things on Shadow Hearts, but they're kind of rare here, so I think I only have one of the games. And Children of Mana, yeah, I still have to play some more Mana games. I am in the process of playing Secret of Mana, by the way. I have played pretty much 2 or 3 hours. I think I got into the Ice World, Snow World. It's an interesting game. I'm really enjoying it. I did play it about 2 years before, but it's very action heavy, of course. That's something that I always have to get the right mindset in, because I'm so used to turn-based RPGs. But I really like it. The visuals and the soundtrack are absolutely fantastic. It is disappointing though that I can't play it on co-op, because that's what makes this game, in my opinion, really shine, is that you can play it 3-player co-op. But I'm playing it on my iPhone as of now, which is a very interesting port.
It is. I'm wondering how it went, because Secret of Mana is my favorite Super Nintendo game, and I love to play it here and now, and I'm really interested to see what the iOS version plays like, because I was really concerned at first, but please tell me, is there any major problems with it, or does it run perfectly?
No, not really. Square usually on iOS, well, I have a couple of their games, but I haven't played all of them. Recently, they released Chrono Trigger as well as the first three Final Fantasies. I think the only game that really suffers from slowdown is Final Fantasy Tactics, because that's the port of the PSP, which already had slowdown. But Secret of Mana, well, of course you're playing it on an iPhone, and you don't really have, real controls in your hands. You have to use the touchscreen, which is always a little bit iffy, but it's a good port. I really enjoy it. I believe I read up that they did a lot of small translation changes and stuff, but not a complete translation overhaul from what I've gathered, because I believe Secret of Mana was really rushed in its translation and lost a lot of dialogue and stuff.
Actually, there's a fantastic story behind that. I'll just go through it quickly. Actually, I read a interview, I think it was on Hardcore Gaming 101, about on the guy who he only had a short period of time to translate that for the US and European market. So, and when I found out that time frame, I actually can't remember. I think it was a couple of weeks or a couple of days. And I mean, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. You wouldn't see that happen nowadays. But for the time frame he was given, it's not the worst by any means. It was very understandable. I mean, I was 10 years old when I played it for the first time. It was the first Squaresoft game I ever played. So I have nothing but love for that game. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see it. Well, I'm only about a couple hours in. I really enjoy it. I really like the gameplay system where you can pause it with that ring system. I like the even though you only have 3 characters in your party, it's interesting. I already know that you won't get different characters like say Final Fantasy Mystic Quest or something, similar where you swap characters in and out, but it's not really a problem with me. I really enjoy the story so far, and this is the second Mana game, and the only other Mana game that I played was the first one, the Final Fantasy Adventure on the Game Boy, which was an interesting one, and I really enjoy the step up in quality, because this is definitely one of the better action RPGs on the Super Nintendo. I do hope it's not all that long. I did gather it's about 12 hours long, and hopefully it won't be really grind heavy, because there are some other games that I'm currently playing, like Tales of the Abyss on the 3DS, which is one of the longest RPGs. At least the Tales of series, together with Persona, are some insanely lengthy RPGs with a lot of cutscenes and skits you can read. But I picked up a new 3DS about 2 weeks ago. I bought the special Legend of Zelda Hyrule Edition, which honestly I am really glad that it's already sold out, at least in Europe. It's selling for 300 or 275 pounds upward. That's always nice. I'm not the biggest Zelda fan, but I'm a big fan that I made a right decision for buying both Legend of Zelda, the 3DS one, as well as the special edition for Skyward Sword. But what grips me the most, and this is kind of frustrating for a lot of gamers out there, but not specifically me, because I did pick up Tales of the Abyss 3DS day one. It was released here in Europe and Australia in November, as opposed to February for the American release, North American release. But the game got a really limited printing, and pretty much I figured out after I got the game, a lot of people started complaining that the game was already not available anymore, out of print, going for £80 and upward on eBay, which sucks, because I want the Tales of series to succeed in popularity and in sales, and with a small printing like this, the first real Japanese RPG on 3DS, and they pull a stunt like this is really annoying. But Greg, I believe there's something even crazier going on in Australia, or not, about this game.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could talk to someone from Namco about what they've done, because it's a first for in Australia. Tales of the Abyss in Australia has only got a release in one certain chain of stores. I mean, I've never heard of anything like this in my life. You know, usually whenever an RPG is released, I like to go to like 4 of the major brands here in Australia, from gaming stores to mass electronic warehouses. And we have a store here in Australia called JB Hi-Fi, which is the #1 leading like giant electronics warehouse. You know, they sell anything, you know, if it can be plugged in. Basically, they've got a big games section. And what's really funny is they must have paid an elusive contract to Namco, because you can only buy Tales of the Abyss at JB Hi-Fi stores. And I just think that's absolutely insane. The good news is when I went games hunting with my girlfriend, the good news and bad news is the bad news is I wasn't quick enough. Good news was she was, and she got the last copy in the store. And it was selling at full retail price, because at that store, they always sell things cheaper than the retail price, but not Tales of the Abyss. That was at full retail price for 69 Australian dollars. So, you know, it's a shame that this may be, you know, thrown into the well of obscurity so soon. You know, hopefully, if the initial shipment does sell out, they will consider another printing. But that rarely happens, you know, in Europe. That stuff happens in the US from time to time, but you know, the only way it's going to happen is if the initial shipment gets sold out. But what's happening right now is, unfortunately, we don't have a 3DS, so that's pretty much sitting on the shelf. So,
Okay.
yeah, but I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, all I can say is I'm about 8 to 9 hours into it. It looks absolutely gorgeous on a 3DS. Of course, this game was released on a PS2 about 2005, 2006. You really see, well, the 3DS, of course, is my first newest generation console, and it really looks good. They did a fantastic job on porting it. It looks very vivid on the smaller screen. You don't see a lot of, anti-aliasing and strange, textures and stuff. It looks great. It plays great as well. Tales of has a very deep customization system, where you can use skills and AI setups and stuff like that. The thing that I honestly don't really enjoy all that much as of now is the main character. The main character is this. He's called Luke, and he is this son of a duke living in one of the bigger empires, and he's been kept in isolation for a bunch of, or 10 years or so after he got abducted about years ago, which is all made clear in the first 50 minutes. No spoilers here, but he acts really annoying as of now. I really hope, and I pretty much expect him to change in the course of the game. He will grow up, but there's this one secondary character, this is animal creature, and he is really really bad. Acting really bad towards this character, to this animal, and that really sucks. You don't want to see your main character acting like a whiny pussy all the time. It's even worse than, say, Tidus in Final Fantasy X. But yeah, I'm expecting him to grow up and become more responsible, and but besides that, the story is really interesting. It is a little bit hard to follow because everything in this world revolves around the power of phones, not telephones, but phone, phone. It's something to do with sound, and all matter is made out of. It's confusing, but after about a couple hours, you start getting used to it. It is a little bit different than the system that Tales of Vesperia has. It doesn't take place in the same world, but I'm really enjoying it. It's probably going to be a very, very long RPG, and that's pretty much the game, together with Secret of Mana, that I'm playing right now on the handhelds on my way to work. Besides that, I played about, I think I've finished about 10 or so RPGs over the last 3 months or so. With a 4-hour train ride, every day, you get a lot of game time in. It's pretty much 20 hours. It's pretty much a RPG a week. Let's see. One shout out that I have to make to a specific game. It's technically not an RPG, but it has a lot of RPG traits in it, and that is the downloadable only game on the PSP, Corpse Party. I highly recommend everybody who is a big fan of anime, Japanese games, and even Japanese horror movies to pick up a copy of Corpse Party. It's out in Europe for 15 euros and $20 in North America. I believe Australia is coming up next. It is about 15 hours long of fantastic horror story about these school children that get sucked up in this world, in this old decayed school, which is pretty much their new school is based on the premises of the old school. They get somehow sucked into it and they have to escape. You play over a bunch of, I believe, 5 chapters. You meet different parties. You gotta have some very nice puzzles, some nice chase scenes, but overall the atmosphere is really creepy. It's definitely one of the highlights of this year. I really enjoyed it. Apologies, that was my phone. I really enjoyed playing through Corpse Party, and I highly recommend it. It's not a full Japanese RPG, but it plays out like and I know that Greg's going to enjoy this. It plays out like a 16-bit top-down RPG, which is always great, of course. So definitely pick up a copy of Corpse Party. Greg, interested in Corpse Party or?
Well, I'm on the fence with it because I'm not a big fan of horror games, even though Shadow Hearts is an exception because it's really good. Corpse Party, I might wait until I played it because I was really interested to see if there was any battle systems, and I did some research on this series, and I don't want to say anything that will spoil playing it, but yeah, I don't know. I think I might wait in next year sometime. I mean, one part of me wants to buy it so I can give my money to XC, but other than that, yeah, I'm still on the fence, so it might be a while before I give it a shot.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, if anybody's interested, I really do recommend you don't watch any videos. You will only spoil yourself. I think the best way to do it is watch the opening 10 minutes of the game and see all the characters get thrown into the other world. Because there are some really gruesome shockers, some shock twists, some really bad endings, which are really horrifying and gruesome to look and listen at, because the sound department is actually great, exceptionally great of this game. So give it a try. Even though it's not an RPG, it's still published by Xseed. There is talk of a sequel, but to get all stuff out of the way, it is not technically a true sequel. It's called Corpse Party Book of Shadows. It is more or less a pseudo sequel where they remake the entire game and add in content. So it's kind of like a 1.5 version, or if you want to compare it, say Dissidia and Dissidia Duodecim. You get the original game and you get some additional characters with full chapters and a opener and an ending that's completely new. So hopefully it still sells well, and it might be a good idea to pick it up if it ever gets released by Xseed, but we'll see. Let's see, so that's Corpse Party. Another game that I put in a lot of time, about 35 hours, is Shin Megami Tensei Persona 2 Innocent Sin. I bought the Ghostlight Limited Edition and got challenged on Pete's Gaming Forum as the Gentleman's Club to play the game. People get paired up and have to challenge each other a game, and I got paired up with Darrow 585 M85, which is also a great YouTuber, by the way. Check him out. So I've been playing Shin Megami Tensei Persona 2. Really interesting gameplay for sure. It is definitely a more evolved system than Persona 1. Battle system is still pretty similar. It throws away the grid system, but adds in something that is both fantastic as well as kind of disappointing. They throw in this system called the fusion spell system, where based on a turn order, if you pair up 2 or 3 characters and perform a specific attack, the gameplay system doesn't perform those 3 moves, they throw it together into a fusion spell, which is a better combo attack or something like that. Pretty much similar to Chrono Trigger and other games like that, Trails in the Sky, for instance. But the main thing with the fusion spell system is once you figure out some very devastating ones, even early on, about 50% into the game, one noticeable one is the Dashing Strike. If you figure that one out, how to perform it, that is a 8-hit combo of about 250 hit points, which even bosses are, completely obliterated by it. You have one character standby for healing, others to do weakness spells, and the other 2, you have 5 characters in your party to do the Dashing Strike. I never struggled any moment in the game like I have pretty much before with Shin Megami Tensei, because they are hard games, but I never game over except for maybe one boss fight where I was underleveled. But it was really easy, which was fun because I wanted to play through the game and experience the story, which is really great. But the gameplay was a little bit disappointing, and the bad part about it is, yes, I was playing it on the hard difficulty. So that's kind of disappointing, but it still gave me 35 hours of a fantastic story. The story towards the end got a little bit crazy, where I'm not going to spoil anything, but I feel the ending was kind of rushed. And one thing though, Innocent Sin is not the only Persona 2 game. This is the first part of the Persona 2 saga, and after this one comes Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, which did get an English release on the PlayStation 1. I wanted to play that one after finishing Innocent Sin, but I played it for maybe a half hour or so and saw that the system and frame rate and stuff is honestly, it takes a huge dip, even more so from going to Persona 4 to Persona 3 FES on the PlayStation 2. This one is really hard to get into, and I sadly have to make the decision, even though it's one of the games that I really want to finish. So I've played all the Persona games. I'm going to wait until Atlus decides to port it. But if you're looking for a solid Persona game, definitely play this one. It is more accessible and more enjoyable one than Persona 1, even though Persona 1 is still a very enjoyable game, but that system is really archaic. This is also the last game that features the negotiation system. No social link system though, but it's an interesting one, and I highly recommend picking it up and supporting Atlus as well as Ghostlight. But Persona 2, I really enjoyed playing through it. And Greg, are you going to picking up Persona 2, or did you already pick it up?
No, I haven't picked it up yet. I've seen it many times, and I definitely want to play it. I've always wanted to play Innocent Sin for a very, very long time, because when I remember probably about a decade ago when Eternal Punishment came out, I really wanted to play it, but sadly it only got a limited release in Japan and the US. So hopefully, if Atlus has the time, that they'll consider porting Eternal Punishment as well, so you can get both games on the PSP. But when that happens, probably, I agree with Ferro, that'll probably be the best way to play it. One question I have for you, and I don't want to say anything specific, but there was 2 major reasons that Atlus usually proclaimed were the reasons they didn't release Innocent Sin years ago. Can I ask, Aero, is that content in the PSP version?
I'm definitely not going to spoil anything. There are 2 reasons. One is a specific fictional character, which is indeed returning in Persona 2 Innocent Sin. It is all I have to say about that. If you know who it is also pretty disappointing, because he only makes an appearance really late into the game. And the other thing is, I don't know if this is a spoiler or anything, but you supposedly can, since you're playing as a male main character, you can supposedly end up with a different male character, which, if I name him, is full spoiler, so I'm not going to do that. But you can end up in this sort of homosexual relationship, which I I don't really know. I don't really know how you can pull it off. It's an interesting one that you mentioned it. Perhaps I have to check, do some research. But I pretty much end up with the de facto girl that you are supposed to pair up with, and that is the blonde-haired girl Lisa Silverman, which is kind of a precursor to Chie. Yeah, I pretty much ended up with her. I didn't really see a lot of choices that you could make to end up with this character. There were some questions that Lisa asked where she was like, do you like me and stuff, and I could, go for other characters, but I don't know if that one choice would make me end up with a different character. I have no idea. But I got to do some research. But that content is all inside Persona 2 Innocent Sin. The only thing that Atlas USA took out of the Japanese port of Innocent Sin was, I believe, the addition to make your own dungeons or something like that. But this is, even going beyond optional dungeon stuff, you still get a lot of hours worth of content. So highly recommend everybody who is a big fan of SMT games to pick up Persona 2. And for now, I can't wait, for the release of Persona 4 the Golden. But there's another game that a lot of people are overlooking, which should be coming out early next year, and that is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2 on the DS. Yes, there's still DS games coming out. No idea if it's going to be a European release, and I still have to buy a copy of either Devil Survivor 1 or the Devil Survivor Overclocked for 3DS, which I can't play on my European 3DS, by the way. But definitely check out Devil Survivor 2. I heard a lot of great things about it, and it's supposedly coming out in JRPG Hell January and February, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, the upcoming January, February are insane for JRPG lovers. But like I said, talk about that some more. But definitely check out Devil Survivor 2 because I heard a lot of great things. Let's see. Besides that, I've been playing a lot of Square Enix games. And like I mean a lot. I've been finishing up a lot of short ones. Like I said, I'm playing Secret of Mana right now. I played through Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings, which is about 18 hours long, and it's more a real-time strategy game where you control these small armies led by, most notably, characters from Final Fantasy XII, in your main party, Fan and Penelo, Balthier, Fran, and stuff like that, and some new enemies thrown in. Interesting game, interesting story. Absolutely love the soundtrack to see it returning. But there's just something about the Ivalice Alliance games that feels off with me. I'm not the biggest fan of Final Fantasy XII. It has something. Yeah, it's. I heard a lot of people that either love or hate it. I'm not the biggest fan of medieval fantasy. So, but I have to be honest and say that Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings doesn't have a overkill on that specific dialogue style and stuff like that. It's an interesting game. It's a short one, and it was released early on in the DS library. It's an interesting one, and I have been walking around with my Japanese limited edition one, the DS itself of Revenant Wings, and now after about 4 years, I finally played that game. So definitely great to finish that one. I finally finished all the, and I have to say, pretty abysmal Crystal Chronicles games. I have no idea why Square Enix thought it would be an excellent idea to not make one but actually 6 games in this series. Pretty quickly, I finished 2 WiiWare games called Crystal Chronicles, My Life as a King and My Life as a Dark Lord. Pretty short games, about 6 to 7 hours long both. It's pretty much a tower defense game with the Crystal Chronicles style and enemies and stuff like that. Nothing noteworthy. You're not missing out on anything, but I just wanted to play it for completionist sake. I finished the Crystal Chronicles Ring of Fates, which was actually before Echoes of Time, the first DS title. A charming little story, but once again the gameplay is really basic, which even makes Echoes of Time look even more abysmal, because I already finished that one, and I still believe that is one of the least enjoyable RPGs that I ever had, that I ever finished. It's really that bad, and especially on the Wii. But Ring of Fates is a great one. It's a little bit more enjoyable in terms of story, but it's still really easygoing. It's about these two kids growing up, and um, yeah, stuff happens. They gotta save the world, and that's pretty much it for the entire story. And the gameplay, is nothing fancy. Just your element dungeons and some small carry this item into the door piece puzzles, and some hack and slash. But what I also beat on the Wii is 7 hours Crystal Bearers. Crystal Chronicles, Crystal Bearers. This was, really highly anticipated, back in 2007 or 2008. Picked up my copy, never got around to playing it after, the reviews showed that it's a disappointing game. But it's my favorite Crystal Chronicles game. It's true. It's my favorite Crystal Chronicles game. You play as this main character called Lael, who is this crystal bearer, and that means he has special abilities. He can, warp powers, kind of like Jedi powers. He can, grab stuff and swirl it around. And Crystal Bearers kind of makes interesting use of the Wii motion controls. I kind of enjoyed it. There are a lot of action scenes, like stealth sequence on the train, or flying this. Or riding this train, or flying with a chocobo, and running around with a chocobo and stuff. But you gotta use the Wii motion controls, and the story is nothing really fancy. It is once again about the wars between the clans in the Crystal Chronicles 1, and which one has the special crystal, is trying to resurrect all the evil and stuff like that. But for a 6-7 hour game, it's an interesting one. Production value is really high. I like the graphics, and Crystal Chronicles, Crystal Bearers is pretty much the saving grace of the series. It's been about 2.5 years since the last release of Crystal Chronicles, and I highly urge Square Enix never ever to make any more Crystal Chronicles games, because you're only hurting yourself, you're only hurting the reputation, and you're pissing me off because I'm a big Square collector and I have to buy it, and I'm going to spend both money, and now that I finished all of them, if a new Crystal Chronicles games come out, I gotta finish it as well. Don't do it. Just do something else and skip the Crystal Chronicles series. But from what we've seen recently, Square's working very hard on kind of diversifying it. We have 4 Heroes of Light, which I still have to play, which together with Final Fantasy Tactics A2 are the only DS games that I've got to finish. And we have Theater Rhythm, Final Fantasy, Dissidia, so they're kind of doing something different, and I kind of like it. So hopefully no more Crystal Chronicles. Let's see.
Hey, Square Enix, listen, the SquareSoft specialist said so. So
yeah, yeah, definitely. That's definitely the case. And now that I've played, a lot of these spin-offs, you definitely see, that Crystal Chronicles is quick cash-in aimed more towards children and teenagers, and it's not up to par. They should have never called it Final Fantasy. But there's one really big one in the Final Fantasy series that I finally finished, and that is Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions on the PSP. The first Final Fantasy Tactics game. This is a port of the PlayStation 1 version. I mentioned earlier on that the PSP version suffers from some frame rate issues when you're casting spells, which is kind of disappointing. But Final Fantasy Tactics is a very loved game by a lot of people, and all I can say is I finished it in about, I believe, 24-25 hours. It is a good strategy RPG, but strategy RPGs are already not my favorite brand of JRPGs, and I'm not the biggest fan of the isometric view, which subsequent sequels like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and Tactics A2 utilize as well. But what I kind of disliked about Final Fantasy Tactics is, once again, the Evilise setting. It is a very, very hard to follow and convoluted story about factions, empires, generals messing each other up. it is really hard to follow the plot. You control this main character who is part of this noble clan, and he gets thrown into the whole war himself, and he has this rival friend, who kind of goes with his own faction. But once again, the dialogue is really hard to follow. It is that insane old English Evilese dialogue. I did enjoy playing through it, but after the mid part, and I just really got confused with the story and actually had to look up, things like Wikipedia pages to, even make sense of what was happening. I got kind of frustrated with it, and I started rushing towards the end. Gameplay itself is solid. It is a nice combat system, but I've put in so many hours in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I finished that game 2.5 times, and I'm just so used to that system and that style of gameplay, with the more colorful characters, that Final Fantasy Tactics is not one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. It's weird to say because it's a really loved game, but it's a solid strategy RPG. But I aim more towards Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. But it's still a game that you must play if you're a Final Fantasy fan. But Greg, I believe you have finished Final Fantasy Tactics, right?
No, I'm only, I think, just a bit below halfway. But the thing about Final Fantasy Tactics is it's very well renowned, and I have to say this: Final Fantasy Tactics is a decent game, but it's not what I can't see what other people see in it, if that makes any sense. It's a decent game with a good story. I got to say, it can become very grind heavy at times, and you will need to grind to pass some of the more insane battles. But one thing I really liked about it, and it can be very addictive, and ultimately is for the reasons why I had to put it down, is I stopped playing the main story and started just going to random battles to steal items. I mean, I love stealing items in RPGs, but it just got a bit monotonous, and it was so good at first, but like doing 5 battles just so you can get that one battle where a human pops up that has a rarer item, I don't know, it just got too much, and I put it down. But probably later down the track, I'll probably will finish it, because it is a decent game and a decent strategy RPG.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a decent game. It's a solid strategy RPG, but pretty much hype and stuff like that. I was expecting a really good one, but yeah, that's true about the monotonous thing with stealing. I do the same thing. I want to get the best equipment and be over prepared for the next battle, and that makes it a pretty grind heavy. But all I can say is definitely stick around, because after a while, pretty much after the halfway point, even though I got frustrated with the gameplay system, I started enjoying the story a little bit more, and it all fell into pieces, and it wraps up to a great finale. So if you have the chance, definitely finish it. So that's pretty much it for me and the Squaresoft, at least the Final Fantasy games. I also finished the first Star Ocean game, which was about 19 hours long on the PSP, First Departure. All I can say is highly recommend it. I've never played any of the Star Ocean games, and once after the first 2 hours, it pretty much incorporated everything that I look for in an RPG. Sci-fi elements, time travel, and an awesome story. Great production value with voice acting. Even NPCs have voice acting. It's really top-notch voice acting. Great gameplay. Which is really similar to the Tales of series, which if we're going to be doing a Star Ocean or Tales of episode, very interesting story on how that came to be. But Star Ocean, First Departure, made by Tri-Ace, top-notch RPG. Square Enix did a fantastic job of porting it from the Super Famicom, and all I can say is I'm a believer of the Star Ocean series after only playing one game. I'm really interested in playing Second Story or Second Evolution on the PSP, which was first released on PlayStation 1 as Second Story. I heard that's pretty much the best game in the series. Till the End of Time on the PlayStation 2 is not the most enjoyable one, I've heard, but I'm going to be checking it out after I play second game, and then there's The Last Hope. Not a lot of new things on Star Ocean for the last 2 or 3 years. I no idea if NX gave up on this series or Tri-Ace. Tri-Ace has, of course, been doing other things, like Resonance of Fate and stuff like that. But I'm a big fan of the Star Ocean series, and it has the same awesome qualities as the Tales of series, except the Tales of series it's a little bit more medieval based, and Star Ocean is more sci-fi based. But both series, which share a lot of similarities, are fantastic, and I really look forward to playing more.
Star Ocean was really cool. I like Aero actually played it this year. Star Ocean 1 and 2 was a marathon I did in January this year, and I really enjoyed it. I was really surprised. I actually played Star Ocean years and years ago, but I kind of fell off the wagon, and then I gave it another go, and I found it really enjoyable. And like Aero, I think I played around about 20 to 25 hours because I did a lot of grinding and a lot of crafting. And then after I beat 1, I went on to Star Ocean 2 because beating Star Ocean 2 has always been one of my goals ever since I hired the original PS1 version out. And I got to say, I do prefer 2. But one thing I want to quickly interject is ever since I became a part of the YouTube community, I've met a lot of people that really dislike To the End of Time, and I'm going to be one of the first to say it's a decent game. I really liked it. So definitely give it a go, because I reckon it's one of the better PS2 RPGs.
Oh yeah, definitely. I first had the NTSC copy, but I found a really lucky cheap PAL copy about last year. So of course I will be playing them in order. I already played a bit of Last Hope back when I picked it up on the Xbox 360. But I'm going to be playing them in order, and I'm going, of course, playing the Star Ocean 2 PSP version. Of course, till the end of time on the PlayStation 2 is the only way. And I will be playing the international version on the PlayStation 3 of The Last Hope. And then there's also the spin-off game, Star Ocean Blue Sphere, which never made it out of Japan. But and it's also one of the games that I don't own in my collection yet for the Game Boy Color. But excellent series. Loved my first experience with it, and I'm a big fan. I've played 2 Tri-Ace games for now. I've played Valkyrie Profile Lenneth and Star Ocean First Departure, and they are amongst my favorite RPGs that I've played this year. And even though I played a lot of RPGs, they are really, really enjoyable. So Tri-Ace is doing a great job, and I can't wait to play more. Oh yeah, go ahead.
One thing I just want to quickly say, you were talking about the relationship between Tri-Ace and Square Enix. I have a feeling that that's well and truly over, because Tri-Ace went over to Sega to do Resonance of Fate, and that kind of bombed. And now they're over with Konami. And they've been making a few games for Konami, like Frontier Gate, which just came out on the PSP, which actually has a lot of DLC content for Konami fans, including Suikoden fans. So I'm very interested to see that. They've also got a first-person dungeon crawler called Beyond the Labyrinth that's coming out for the 3DS. So it'll be very interesting to see how the relationship with Konami and Tri-Ace pans out. Because as of now, they're the only sort of company that's helping make RPGs for Konami. Of course, with the in-house team that's making the new Suikoden game, which I will talk about later on.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I remember. Now that you mentioned it, indeed, that Tri-Ace is working, with Konami. Forgot about that. I believe there was even talk that Tri-Ace might have picked up the Suikoden series or something, but those were just rumors, I believe. Yeah, I really like Star Ocean. I've only played one game. We'll see how it goes with the other games. But interesting series for sure. And maybe later on we'll see a return from Tri-Ace to Square to make a potential Star Ocean 5. But who knows? So yeah, let's see. It's pretty much all the RPGs that I've finished over the last couple of months or so. Like I said, I'm making a huge push to finishing a lot of Final Fantasy and Square Enix games. I'm going to be focusing on the Final Fantasy series and all the spin-off games first, before I'm moving into games like Front Mission and Dragon Quest. I'm playing some more Dragon Quest. This is something that I really want to do. Is my goal for 2012 is to finish all the Square Enix games. You know, pretty much all of the Square Enix games, no exceptions. I really want to finish all of them. I know that's a insane goal, but at least you know it becomes more. You know, the journey towards becoming a true Squaresoft specialist. I don't know where my limits are. You know, I really want to finish. You know, Square first games like Chrono Cross are very high on my list. Brave Fencer Musashi is a game that I really want to play. Like I said, I'm playing Secret of Mana now. I gotta play more Saga and Mana games. There are a few more Final Fantasy ones that I gotta check out. But you know, overall, a lot of great games, a lot of great RPGs. Some better than others that I've overlooked for so long because I figured, you know, don't have the time for them, and there are other games distracting me. But now that I'm working full time on JRPGs and I have such a long commute to work, it turned out that most of these games can be finished, you know, within 10 to 20 hours, which is pretty much, you know, 3-4 days. So that's why I finished all these shorter Square games, you know, on the DS, and it's actually been a lot of fun. And you know, working toward that, that 100% completion is going to be a really enjoyable ride. But there are a lot of other games, a lot of other series like the Tales of series, you know, and the Shin Megami Tensei series that, you know, demand my time as well. But we're going to see how it goes for Squaresoft Specialist, and both on my Squaresoft Specialist I will have, you know, some video updates on that. But you know, with Season 2 of Rpgibberish, I'll crank in some progress on that as well. But definitely check out the channel because I have a video planned where I've been talking, you know, about that goal more, you know, in depth. So yeah, that's pretty much all the games that I finished, you know, the last couple of months. Still no Xenoblade. Oh yeah, go ahead.
One thing I've been meaning to say is I've actually got a few other games I've been playing, and I want to push them in quickly before we talk about Xenoblade. But back, I know I'm forgetting in my old middle aged, but basically, when we talk about Tales, I've been meaning to say something to all the listeners and to all my subscribers. Was one of the games I've been searching for a very long time was Tales of Vesperia, and I'm pleased to announce during my trip I finally found a copy. And the funny story about that is when I saw it, I literally dived for it, freaking out the shopkeeper, and I'm like, "You want that?" And he said to me, "You really want that game?" It's like, "Yeah, you can say that." It was a secondhand copy, but it was in absolute mint condition. It didn't look like it was used, you know, a day after it was released. So I'm really happy. Unfortunately, I don't have an Xbox 360, so it's going to be a while before I can play it. But after I got that, I kind of got into a Tales spin, you know, and no pun intended. And basically, what else did I get? I got Tales of the World Radiant Mythology 1. Still haven't taken that out of the shrink wrap. But the other game I did get, and it was actually the last copy in that store I was talking about earlier, and I got a copy of Tales of Fantasia for the GBA. And I'm anything but honest, and I have to be brutally honest, and I'm not trying to offend any Tales fans here, but Tales of Fantasia, especially on the GBA, was a frustrating experience. I just wanted it to end, and you know that you're not enjoying a game if that's the case. And I don't know why I really disliked the battle system. I remember having a more pleasant time playing the Super Nintendo version. The voice acting is horrible. The characters sound much older than they should be. It does not sound very well through a Game Boy Advance's speakers at all. And the story just hasn't gripped me at all. And it just felt more of a chore than an experience. And I must admit, I put in about 15 hours into the game. So, yeah, I'm more than halfway through it. And, yeah, I basically had to put it down because I just wasn't enjoying it. So hopefully, you know, just to find out how the game ends, I may play it years from now, but I don't have any intention of playing it anytime soon.
Okay, yeah, I've heard stuff that the GBA port, which I don't own myself, is not the best port out there. Of course, Tales of Fantasia was the first Tales of game, so I know that the battle system isn't as evolved as say Abyss and Vesperia. But that's disappointing to hear for sure. Definitely hope you get around with an Xbox 360 to play Vesperia. I don't want to hype it up too much, but it still is my favorite RPG of this generation, at least on the
Well,
consoles.
I've played the demo, and I really like what I've played of the demo. And I'm really looking forward to playing Abyss and Vesperia. So I'm still going to try and invest some time into the Tales series. But one last game I forgot to mention, and we'll finally wrap up games we've been playing, because I have to say, this is probably the longest games we've been playing segment ever since the first episode of Rpgibberish. So very, very quickly, I've been playing Fate Extra, and I've had kind of a Fate sort of month where I watched Fate Stay Night, all the episodes, and then I went immediately to play 2 hours of Fate Extra, and I gotta say, it is a very unique dungeon crawler from the guys at Image Epoch. And I got to thank Axis for bringing it out in such a beautiful special edition. The game is very dark. I mean, Japanese, not horror, but sort of mind-bending Japanese type thriller dark. And basically, how they view human life is very soulless in the world of Fate Extra. And it does feel like a game, and it feels like it's a machine, like, where all the students do how they talk. It's very surreal in a very good way. It's very interesting how the game begins. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you'll be very surprised how the game begins. I definitely do want to put some more hours into it, but I'm not in the mood to play that type of game. But for what it delivers, I think it will be a very memorable experience. And it's very handy that you get to choose one of 3 servants, so there'll be some replay value there for anyone that might not be, not have enough money to buy other RPGs. So I'll definitely talk about that more when I play it. But for what I've played so far, it's very interesting indeed.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting to hear. I kind of overlooked Fate Extra. There wasn't really a lot of information out there, and importing from the USA is pretty expensive, so kind of skipped it. Perhaps Ghostlight picks it up. We'll have to see, but never watched any of the Fate Stay Night or played the visual novel or anything like that. So, but it's good to hear at least somebody pretty optimistic about the title. So, if I ever run into it for a normal okay price, I'll definitely give it a try, because dungeon crawlers is always nice, and mind bending darkness, that's always good. I love like I said, Corpse Party and stuff like that. And Shin Megami Tensei series. It's something different than happy kids running around saving the world. So.
Well, what's funny is the schoolyard, which is one of the main parts of the game. It felt like Persona 4 and 3. It really did. It had that sense of deja vu.
Yeah, I've seen the school parts. I'm definitely more interested in checking it out than I was at its release. So we'll see. I'm definitely going to try and hunt it down. So yeah, I think that wraps up. Games we've been playing. Definitely a lot of games we've been playing. So I think
we do. But before that, I did cut out that you were talking about Xenoblade, so I think we should own up about where we are with both games. But about both, yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles, very highly hyped up. We both hyped it up ourselves before it got released in August. It was really, really at the point where I just needed that game and play it. I was, counting the days. And it's one of the first few games that I bought in store. I bought the special edition because it was the only place I could pick it up. I put in about 8 hours early September, and I was not blown away by the gameplay system being a little bit spam heavy. I wasn't really feeling that I was doing a lot of strategy. After about 5 hours, it got more in depth with the look into the future. And one of your characters is going to die, so fix that. That was interesting, but I still felt like I was just spamming moves over and over. Perhaps I should change which character I'm using, because I'm just using the main character. There was just something off about Xenoblade and that kind of distracted me. In terms of random fetch quests, which are optional, I know, but you wanna look good in front of a boss. You wanna beat it and wanna be prepared. Um, I was at the point where I met this new female character called Charla, um, and after that I just never went back to Xenoblade. There was something off with the leveling system and the equipping armor and stuff was kind of frustrating. I didn't know what I was equipping and stuff like that, and I felt that a lot of usability, interface stuff could have been improved. But maybe I'm overly critical on the game. I definitely don't want to sound like that because Xenoblade Chronicles, there aren't a lot of Wii RPGs, and it's still very, very good. It's definitely one of the best RPGs so far on the Wii. But then I found out that the game is about 60 to 70 hours long, and I don't have a lot of console time. Then games like Deus Ex Human Revolution and the slew of fall titles got released, and now I'm playing Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, which I still haven't played in the last week and a half or so. I still got to go to the third dungeon, but I feel bad about Xenoblade. It's on the top of my mind. I look at the box, if I'm sitting in my room and I want to play it some more, but I can't make any promises like I did. We're going to be finishing it in all August, but I hope to get back into it. I have a full week off at the end of the year between Christmas and New Year's Eve, so I might sit down and play some more Xenoblade, perhaps do some marathon sessions, and at least enjoy and put in some more time. Because in February we have Mistwalkers, the last story, coming out, and it would be a very good idea for me to at least finish Xenoblade, or get to the point where I just say to myself, I'm not going to finish it, but I've played enough of the game, so I've completed it in my mind. Of course, I want to finish every RPG that I play, but at least be done with Xenoblade before the last story comes out. And that's Xenoblade. And I know you don't have all the listeners out there. We have some good news, and that's of course Xenoblade is coming out internationally. At least North America is getting a release, I believe, at the end of March. Once again, do pick it up. Definitely buy it, if not only to improve the chances to get Pandora's Tower and Last Story in North America as well, and get it because it's a great Wii RPG for sure. But I have some issues with it. Don't take my word for it. There are a lot of people who just absolutely loved it, every step of the way. But don't get your hypes up too much, and don't be expecting, the best game ever. Because I honestly still feel that if Xenoblade Chronicles was released with perhaps better graphics on the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360, it would not, be as much acclaimed as it is on the Wii. But like I said, once again, I sound way too overly negative on Xenoblade. It's a good game, it just has some issues, and I'm not that into the game as I was hoping to be after 8 hours. So I will go back to it and try to finish it some more and see if it improves, see if it can grip me, or it won't improve and I'll just say I'm done with the game. But Greg, how is your progress with Xenoblade?
Okay, I absolutely love Xenoblade, but it's not the game's fault I'm playing right now. So much has happened around that time I was playing Xenoblade that I just didn't have time for it, and it was just such a long time before I had the chance to. This is the reason I haven't continued on, is nothing to do with the game. It's because I moved, I've had to set myself up, and the thing is I couldn't take my Wii with me on the plane, and I've already invested about 12 hours into the game, and when it came down to it, I didn't want to do those 12 hours again on my girlfriend's Wii. I'd rather wait until I can either get my Wii back, get that save file, and continue on, because I desperately want to beat it, because I really like what the game has offered me so far. Yes, the fetch questing can get a bit repetitive, but it does work out in the end. I did kind of optimize my characters to take out anything in their path for the first few areas. But where it shines is I really like the story and the characters. Now, the only problem I have with the game, it's not something I hate, but it's something I have to warn everyone, is the battle system does take a long time to get used to. It takes a long time to figure things out, and more so than any other RPG. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Once you get everything figured out, it can be a very enjoyable experience. But I've heard mixed opinions of people really disliking Xenoblade's battle system because they think it's one of the most control-heavy battle systems they've ever encountered. And I got to say, it's true, but I still like it. I think it works, and it works really well. And it does acquire a lot of patience and a lot of timing to get everything the way you want it to. And especially if you're playing it on the nunchuck and the Wiimote, it's very awkward. I actually really want to play on the controller to see how different that is. I've got a feeling that it might be a bit better, but I can't be too sure. But that's the only thing I'm really concerned with. Not dislike, but concerned. But I got to say, if you go into Xenoblade, give yourself a couple of hours to sort of get used to the battle system, and when you do, it's much more enjoyable. So that's all I got to say. But one thing I just got to interject and say: the music is fantastic. Absolutely, and adore the soundtrack of Xenoblade. And I really want to get the soundtrack so I could just listen to the music. I mean, even the opening music, the opening title screen's music is enchanting. So. I have nothing but love for Xenoblade, but just like I said, be prepared and just give it time. It will grow on you.
Yeah,
in terms of gameplay.
I think that's definitely the case. Back in August, I was just I was just working for maybe 2 weeks or so at my new job, which has the 4-hour commute, and at that time, I just had to get used to that time and the fact that I couldn't play console time. I think you have a very good point. I should just ease in there, take it slow, get used to the system, and don't want to rush things. I think that's a good idea for when I go back. And it's kind of the same, with the Zelda games. I'm really enjoying Skyward Sword now, but usually I was treating new Zelda games after I finished Wind Waker, like, I want to finish this game as fast as possible, so I finished it. And that's the wrong mindset. And I'm just taking it really slow with Skyward Sword and just taking it all in, getting used to the fighting system. And I'm really enjoying it, so I should just do the same with Xenoblade. And I really think that if I go into Xenoblade with the right mindset and take my time, I know I will get rewarded for a very deep and awesome JRPG for sure. So, this is just Aero being a bit frustrated because things are not going his way. But we'll have to see. I'll definitely talk about Xenoblade some more once I played some more, So yeah, I think that about wraps up games we've been playing. We've been talking about a lot of great games that everybody should just go out and buy. Stuff like pretty much everything.
Well, yeah, I think we better just end it there, boys. We'll keep continuing it on, but I think we've covered a lot of things, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the very long session we had talking about games we're playing recently. But that's what happens when you're on break for about 2 months.
Oh yeah, that's if you have a 4-hour commute and you got a lot of time on your hands, you are piling up the games. So excellent idea, and for the upcoming months, there's a great stuff planned that we'll be talking about. Like I said, we've been going on for maybe an hour and a half, so we're going to split it up, of course. This is going to be the first release, of the Rpgibberish extra episode, if you might call it, and in a few days we'll release the second part that we're going to be recording in 5 minutes, talking about the upcoming games. So definitely great to be back and talking about RPGs again. Greg, got any final words for this part?
Stay tuned. We've got a lot of great things we want to talk about. RPGs coming in 2012, and of course we want to talk about our favorite RPGs of 2011. And I can say this now, you probably already guessed it. So until then, guys, watch the next